Hello everybody, I'm Albert Villa and I'm from a company called Mind Prosperity. We focus on mental wealth, and in this series we are talking about emotional intelligence in the workplace. Research tells us that if your emotional intelligence increases with 5 points, your life betters with 72%. We have collaborated with Safe Training to create an amazing course to help you apply the following principles in your professional life. These principles include self-awareness, self-control, empathy, integrity, internal locus of control, flow and authenticity. To register for the course, simply visit safetraining.co.za and navigate to the courses page. Here you will find the list of courses. Select emotional intelligence in the workplace and go through the registration process. You can use my code AVILLA15 to check out for 15% discount. From Mind Prosperity, thank you so much for watching. We believe we will see you soon. Goodbye. Welcome again to another session, another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Albert Villa. We're a company called Mind Prosperity, and we are focusing on mental wealth, helping people to think better, deal with their emotions better, and to thrive in life. And we believe these videos and these sessions are going to help you with that. So last week we did another way of intelligence, part 1. Today is part 2 of another way of intelligence, speaking about emotional intelligence. So today we're speaking about keys to get the best out of people in the workplace. If you want to get the best out of your people in the workplace, we believe emotional intelligence is a big key, but today we're going to give you a lot of other keys with it that's part of emotional intelligence that's going to help you. And we said this last week, we asked this question. Have people ever asked you the question, are you clever? Are you intelligent? Are you smart? And if people ask you that question, you normally think, yeah, well, did I do well at school? Do I have a good degree? And things like that. But studies have shown us that emotional intelligence, knowing how to deal with your emotions, with your internal emotions, with yourself, understanding yourself, which refers to intrapersonal intelligence, and then understanding other people's emotions and how to deal with other people's emotions, interpersonal intelligence. That is the core of emotional intelligence. And they said having scored high on emotional intelligence is a much greater and better prediction of success than scoring high on intellectual intelligence. So emotional intelligence is an extremely important key to get the best out of your people in the workplace, to get the best out of your employees, to be the best leader, and to get the best feedback from your clients. Emotional intelligence plays such an important role. Myths about emotional intelligence. If we look at what does emotional intelligence not mean? Number one, emotional intelligence doesn't mean being nice. It's not like I'm a nice person, therefore I'm emotionally intelligent. You know, I've seen a lot of people who are nice, but they don't know how to control and manage their emotions. They don't know how to deal with other people's emotions, although they are nice people. So that's a myth. By that, I'm not saying don't be nice. It's extremely important to be a nice and friendly person, but don't make that the core of emotional intelligence. Second thing, emotional intelligence doesn't mean just let out all your emotion. Doesn't mean if you're angry, show you're angry. If you're sad, show you're sad. Just show and tell people everything you feel. That's not emotional intelligence either, because emotional intelligence is know how to manage and master your emotions. Know when to deal it, know how to deal with it, know who to handle it with. So I know who I can share my emotions with. I know who I cannot share my emotions with. I know to what extent I can help people. I know to what extent I cannot help people. So emotional intelligence is not walking around with your emotions the whole time. Okay, so if we look at emotional intelligence, there's something in our brain called the limbic system, or the emotional brain, and we have to know how to manage our emotional brain. So it's not emotional intelligence to say I just let out all my emotions, but it's also not emotional intelligence to say I put away all my emotions. That's where the neocortex, or the thinking brain, is totally in charge, and the emotional brain is kind of buried away. That's not emotional intelligence either. Emotional intelligence is where you get that balance. As far as you can, you know, different situations we will be more emotional. It will require us to be more emotional. Other situations it will require us to be more logic. But in life we want to get a balance between the two, meaning we want to manage and master our emotions in a logical way. Number 3, the other myth is one sex or one gender is not more emotionally intelligent than another sex or gender. And this was in a study, No Sex Differences, by the Reuven Bar-On, and they said there are mainly no sex differences when it comes to emotional intelligence between men and women. Men can sometimes show more self-confidence and maybe be a bit more optimistic. That's what they actually said as part of the study. They also said that women tend to be more aware of their emotions and they tend to have more empathy, but that still doesn't prove that the one is more emotionally intelligent than the other one. So both men and women can grow in women and learn to be emotionally intelligent, and both men and women can not be emotionally intelligent. So that thing where people ever say, the one gender or the one sex is more emotionally intelligent than the other one is a total and complete lie. So what kind of people do you want in your team, or what are some keys to get the best out of your people? Now, first of all, something that's very important, you can never expect people to be something that you are not. So it's very important in emotional intelligence as a leader to lead yourself well before you lead other people well. One of the things that's very important is the art to convince. How do you convince people to be their best? How do you convince people to show up? How do you convince people to create a great atmosphere? The key there is you have to be convinced. You can never convince people to a point where you are not convinced. I remember there's this band I love. They are called Skillet. It's like this hard rock band. I like hard rock music. And I have this friend, I remember years ago, I just told her about this band, and I told her how much I love this band and how I love their music and how great it is. It's rock and it's violins and it's cellos and the female drummer. She ended up buying herself one of these albums without listening to it. But the thing is, she didn't love it. She told me it's too hard for me. That's not the kind of music I like. So I said to her, why did you buy the album? She said to me, I was convinced because you were so convinced. What is the art of convincing? You have to be convinced in order to convince other people. Your clients in the workplace will never be convinced about your product if you or your employees are not convinced. As a leader, your employees will not be convinced unless you are convinced. As clients, the clients will never be convinced unless the people in the workplace. So this is a major key to create the best and to get the best out of your people. Be convinced. Be convinced in the product. Be convinced in the company. Be convinced about the atmosphere. And in any area where you feel like you have to grow, you're not convinced in, make sure you shape up that area. If I wake up in the morning, I go to my business, I go to my work, but I'm not convinced, I don't like this, people around me is not going to be convinced. The starting point with that, or the main idea, is not to convince people. The main idea is to be convinced yourself, because if you are convinced, convincing other people will be very easy. Managing emotions well. Now, emotions are things that's always going to be there. Good emotions, such as love and joy and peace, will be there. Anger, frustration, guilt, shame, bad emotions, that will also be there. You have to know how to manage these emotions. Now, how do I manage it? I manage it by knowing why it's there. What angers me, what frustrates me, what gives me joy, what gives me peace, what excites me. And then you have to know when to make important decisions. You never make important decisions in an emotional low state or in an emotional high state. Wait until your emotions are balanced until you make important decisions. That is why it's important to manage your emotions well. It's important to take a step back. When you feel very emotional, take a step back, go figure out how it is, and make sure you treat people right. Another important key to get the best out of your people. Then sometimes when people get advice or when people are corrected, they can easily say, I needed to hear that. So never be afraid to tell people the truth, but in a loving and in a kind and in a nice way. Emotional intelligence also doesn't mean I cannot tell people the truth, I cannot be straightforward, I cannot tell them what needs to be done, I cannot correct them, because it's very important, because sometimes things has to be said that people need to hear. Leaders know what to say to people, but emotionally intelligent leaders know how to say it to people, and they know when to say it to people, and in the correct manner. So the truth must always be told, and the facts must always be given through in the correct manner, at the correct time, and in the correct way. That is how emotional intelligence plays a role in the feedback you give, in the correction you give. And these types of leaders are also not closed to suggestions. The fact that you're the leader of the company, the boss of the company, the manager of the company, doesn't mean because you have that title and because you have that influence, you must be closed to suggestions. Because sometimes employees, people on your team, know things that you don't. And sometimes they will give you advice, direction about the company, ideas, and you can say, listen, I needed to hear that. Your ideas will really help our company. In Mind Prosperity, I have many people that work with me, and I always ask them their ideas. I always use their creativity. So that is also a very important thing, knowing how to communicate and correct in the right way and at the right time, and also know when is there somebody in your team that's smart and creative and that has good ideas, although they're not the boss, although they're not the leader, not to shut down their ideas, because they can maybe come up with something that can help your company go forward and do brilliant. Another thing about leadership that's very important. Now remember, leadership, and I said this in the previous video, leadership is not a title. Leadership is not about how many followers you have. Leadership is about influence. Can you influence people? And an important thing about leadership is leaders carry the load. Leaders are problem solvers. And I said to somebody last time, they said, do you know who loves problems? And they said to me, no one. I said, no. Problem solvers loves problems. And that's what a big part of leadership is. They can solve problems. Problem solvers love problems. And leaders can carry the load. If you want leaders on your team, and if you want key leaders on your team, teach people, help people to carry the load. So what is the best you can get out of these leaders or out of these problem solvers? They can carry the load, they can make decisions, they can solve problems, and they can work together as a team. And in order for this to happen, emotional intelligence is vitally important. Many people fail in this area because they are so focused outwardly and not inwardly. What is happening on the outside that influences me? If the outside is good, I'm good. If the outside is bad, I'm bad. But these people with a good, strong emotional intelligence and good leadership, and people who are self-aware as a leader, are people that will say, you know, although the circumstances outside is not where we want it to be, internally we have what it takes to make a change. As a team, as leadership, as a company, we can have great influence. I hope this helped you. I hope this encouraged you. I hope this can help your company. From Mind Prosperity, we love you. Thank you so much for watching. And if this video helped you in any way, send it to other people, send it to other companies, send it to other leaders, because we do believe it can help and increase them. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment. We love you. We'll see you soon again. Goodbye.